Hello, it's me again, and I'm in Dunvant Park again. And I've just been on my mind just to do a little meditation, just a couple of minutes really, on Psalm 91 again, but this time verse 4. And the bit that really has fed me over the years has been where it says, His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. And what God's taught me over the years, it's not my faithfulness, it's His faithfulness that is crucial. And His faithfulness is my shield and rampart. Now, we live in a war zone. You could actually say, you know, that's our current situation because of coronavirus. But all the time, anyway, outside of these times, the enemy is always looking to rob and destroy and maim, and then to undermine faith. And so situations come into our lives where we are just concerned. And what I've learned and what God's taught me is that it's not my faithfulness that's important, it's His faithfulness. And His faithfulness is my shield. And I see myself not cowering away with His shield in front of me, but I see myself walking forward in the direction that He would have me go. But His faithfulness is in front of me. His faithfulness puts out the fiery darts and the lies and the deceits of the enemy. His faithfulness is what I rely on. And then we have that wonderful next phrase, which is His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. And I've done a little study on what is a rampart. Now, it's a weapon of war, and in the Old Testament you often read about how the Israelites would a people would hide in their walled cities, and then the Israelites would build a rampart, and that's a slope going up to the top of these walls. And from that place they could then go over into the city and take the city. And so what God has shown me is that what is a rampart then? How does that work in our lives? Well, a rampart is when instead of allowing the circumstances to rob us of the joy of the Lord, for us deliberately to build our own rampart through praise and worship, through exaltation of Him, through remembering what God has done for us. And you often see that in the Psalms. They relate and remember how the Lord led them out of Egypt through all the plagues and divided the Red Sea for them. And what they're doing, they're building faith. They're building a rampart. And so this verse, this particular verse of Psalm 91, verse 4, this last segment of it, His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. And as we delight in God's faithfulness, acknowledging that we are not faithful, but delighting in His faithfulness, we are building a rampart that will take us up higher into His presence, the very thing that the enemy doesn't want us to do. And as we are praising and as we are worshipping Him, we are taken up into the very presence of God. And then that reminded me of somebody who preached a little bit on when we are under attack from the enemy, and we can be looking at God, and then the enemy comes and starts attacking us, and our instinct is to turn around and start, you know, using our sword and fighting against the enemy. But what he's doing is he's backing off, and we're following, thinking we're having the victory, and then he goes behind us, and he's always wanting to separate us from the love and grace and perfection of God. And so really it's a long way of saying, you know, when you are struggling, if you are struggling, just to turn it and choose it to turn it into a moment, a time of praise and worship. And as you do this, as you draw closer to God through praise and worship, through thanksgiving, you're building a rampart of praise and worship to God to overcome the enemy. And then you're doing the very thing that the enemy doesn't want you to do, which is to turn and worship God. And then he will back off for a while. I hope you find this helpful. Okay, bye.